Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Fernanda Reis-Treffner, and I am consultant for BIOPAMA and BEST for the Knowledge Sharing Journey. And today I will be your host during this online event together with my colleagues Charlie and Margot. In case you have any challenge using Zoom, you can try to write us a message using the chat in the bottom of your Zoom screen. You have the chat, and then you can send us a message either for everyone or for the hosts. We will be recording the event and we will share with colleagues after the session today. So today's session will be 2 hours. We hope to keep the time planned for it. Pour les collègues francophones, j'aimerais bien dire qu'il y a la traduction. Si vous avez besoin de la traduction et suivre la réunion en français, ça sera suffit. Dans l'écran, il y a un globe mondial avec le nom interprétation. Mais si vous allez choisir les langues françaises, et vous pouvez entendre la traduction qui à ce moment s'est fait pour les collègues Edward. We have colleagues from different regions today, Caribbean, Pacific, Europe, and Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, Eastern Southern Africa. And we are very excited to have all of you in the knowledge sharing gathering today. So to start our session, I will invite BIOPAMA coordinator Roxana to give us some welcome words. Please, Roxana, over to you.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see you. Lots of familiar faces from our knowledge sharing journey and some new faces, some new colleagues who work on grant making at IUCN, new partners like Martin from Nordeco, of course, our partners at the European Commission. It's such a pleasure to continue this knowledge sharing journey that we started in February 2023 to harvest the lessons learned from the BIOPAMA grant-making facility and the BEST grant-making facility. Welcome to this milestone of our journey. My name is Roxana, as Fernanda said. I work for the BIOPAMA and the BEST programs at IUCN, and together with the rest of the team who organized this knowledge sharing journey, we're very glad to welcome you. The BIOPAMA Biodiversity and Protected Areas Management Program is a global program operating in Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific states. And it's not just about grant making. The BIOPAMA program has several areas of work, including the establishment of regional observatories, so regional centers for protected areas and biodiversity, and their reference information systems, and a strong program on capacity development. Grant making is just a component of the program that supports the logic of intervention of the program, so that when services are in place, when the right decisions are made, where the gaps are identified, funds are available to address these gaps and complete the full circle. The BEST program, on the other hand, it intervenes in slightly different geographies. It's in the European overseas countries and territories, and the program provides grant funding for small-scale field actions for biodiversity conservation and sustainable development, while BEST 2.0 Plus is funded by the European Commission through the Biodiversity for Life flagship initiative. The BIOPAMA program is a partnership funded by the European Development Fund and the European Union. That's why our geographic focus is on Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific countries. Of course, we are very grateful to our strategic partners and to all of you, because all of you, our grantees, with whom we nurture the relations for so many years, you're our partners. Together we are learning, together we're improving the conservation status, biodiversity in all these areas where we intervene. And yeah, we're very proud and grateful for the partnership with you. We want to take the opportunity of this knowledge sharing journey to learn from your stories, learn together, and improve the way we manage these grant-making facilities for optimized and better results for biodiversity conservation. So yeah, welcome to the journey, and looking forward to our exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxana. So let's understand a little bit more of what is this journey about. The Knowledge Sharing Journey is an initiative from BEST and BIOPAMA. We are pioneering it at IUCN level, where we are bringing 3 programs together: BEST and BIOPAMA as grant facilities, and Panorama Solution as a knowledge management initiative from IUCN and partners. The main idea of the journey is to promote learning and knowledge sharing opportunities for and between grantees, but also involving IUCN staff who are responsible to manage these grant facilities. Basically, we work together to reflect on the activities and interventions they have been doing in the field, also at field level, project level, but also managing these mechanisms. We were able to produce a lot of knowledge products and communication products that we are going to share with you during this event, and also invite you to promote it. All the products are focused on the results achieved, the enabling factors that allow us to reach these results, the good practice, and the lessons learned. So I just would like to share my screen to share this knowledge sharing journey, because how do we start? We start looking to the policies and frameworks that guide our intervention in BIOPAMA and BEST programs. Basically, we are talking about the SDGs, the Aichi framework, and now the new biodiversity framework. And then we diving in the BEST and BIOPAMA programs, looking to all the mechanisms they have put in place to allow channeling resources for local organizations, national organizations, and international organizations, sometimes even government and private sector. And then we invite everyone to look to the whole grant mechanisms. So we do after review exercise, looking to how was the establishment of the mechanisms, the call for proposals, how were the process of project design by the grantees, the grant application, the contract agreements, and we look to every step of this journey to understand what were the challenges that remain, what are the success that we got, and how we can improve next time. And in the same way, we invited 55 grantees that join us online, but also on face-to-face workshop of 5 days in Nairobi on May, to dive in and understand also their implementation process. So they also come back to see how was the support provided by IUCN through the inception calls, the support on financial management, the support on project management, reporting. We have a review of the field activities, the impacts they have done in people's life and nature. We now started during the journey to do an experience capitalization, which is a process when you look for a specific experience and try to understand what happened, you document it, and we share this knowledge produced to first adapt interventions that you have, adopt some new practices. You can even use that to scale up your intervention. But in the end, the idea is to have greater impact. So now we are here in the moment that we are sharing and promoting all the knowledge that we captured through this process. So we do have a poster where we have all the knowledge products elaborated. We also have specific products. For example, we got a lot of Panorama Solutions, videos from the grantees, videos from the staff. We have podcasts, we have a photo exhibition. So there are many, many products that we are going to share. Not all of them today, because it's not possible, but you are all invited to absorb, to watch, to read, and share this. within your organization, but also as well. Because the idea is that if we can use the knowledge that was produced at these different levels, IUCN level, but also the project level, we are going to have much impact in the future interventions. So now I would like to share a short video. We produced the first video is about the journey itself. So it's just for you to get a sense of how was this period when we were together from in Kenya, and then we move on. Thank you, Charlie.
The Knowledge Sharing Journey is an initiative of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, pioneered through the BEST 2.0 Plus and the BIOPAMA programs. This approach promotes learning and knowledge sharing opportunities between grantees and represents a stepping stone in institutionalizing grant-making knowledge management at IUCN. The first ever Knowledge Sharing Journey combined online and in-person workshops where the BIOPAMA and BEST grantees and the IUCN management teams reflected on their grant-making experience, analyzed it, and identified good practices and lessons learned. 83 participants from 43 countries in Africa, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and from European overseas countries and territories were part of this innovative and extraordinary experience. The journey also advanced the integration of Panorama, Solutions for a Healthy Planet, for future scaling with these and other IUCN-managed grant programs as a method to support reflection and documentation of successful outcomes of projects for systematic knowledge management.
This knowledge management and knowledge sharing journey with the BIOPAMA and BEST grantees is essential. During this journey, the experiences, the voices, the recommendations we hear from our grantees are crucial so that we can continue improving and adapting our grant-making facilities and our grant-making practices so they are adapted to the realities on the ground, to the realities of our grantees, who are sometimes big international non-governmental organizations, but often they are small local organizations. The outcome of IUCN's collaboration with the 200 plus organizations that have become our grantees through the BIOPAMA and BEST grant-making facilities also supports the countries, the CBD parties, towards effectively and sustainably achieving the 2030 global biodiversity targets by mobilizing additional resources, by facilitating access and utilization of data and information, and by promoting learning and capacity building through the knowledge management and the exchange that we offer the grantees through this experience.
And this is why they will even be more essential in achieving the goals of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. We need initiatives like BIOPAMA and BEST to help identify and support the diamonds in the rough and to support the scaling up of these success stories across the world.
Seeing these impacts on the ground, these success stories, or just examples of livelihoods benefiting, as well as the conservation part and the great things that are being done, it really inspires me.
It would be a pity to complete the program and not to have all the grantees share the experience and the knowledge they have acquired on an individual basis, and not to give them the opportunity to share a platform, not an online platform, but an in-person platform, to share with one another what they have learned, the challenges they have faced, the way they have mitigated these challenges, and overall to share the story.
We have expectations of the grantees to fulfill, whether that's in their technical and financial reporting and their implementation. We have all these timelines and these indicators and these targets. We have high expectations of them. And while we expect them to fulfill those, we also have a responsibility to give them support so that they can implement properly.
Protecting our local biodiversity and ecosystem services matters.
Local and traditional knowledge is critical and enhances conservation actions.
Linking community livelihoods and small income generating activities to conservation is essential.
Grantees' voices and experience are essential into designing grant-making initiatives.
Le partage d'expériences permet d'informer et d'améliorer la manière dont nous gérons la biodiversité.
Networking is essential to establish a community of practice.
We must advance to improved governance and management of biodiversity where we all can thrive.
Les communautés locales et les populations autochtones sont des gardiens efficaces pour la conservation et la protection des écosystèmes locaux.
Fostering strong relationships between government, private sector, and communities is important for positive change. My BIOPAMA grant makes a change.
To protect nature, we need to put local communities at the center of conservation action. My best grant makes a change.
Thank you. So I hope you got a feeling of how was this journey so far. And today we are on the next step when we are gathering together to share the knowledge products and the knowledge capture. So I would like to invite everyone for a group check-in because we are very curious to know who is in the room today. It's quite easy. You can write your answers directly in the chat if you feel comfortable to do so. You can also use our Harvest document, which is a Google Doc. So if you feel comfortable to have Zoom and another page open your computer, you can use this Google Doc to write your answers there. If you write in the chat, don't worry, we will copy your answer. Okay, so the checking is, we would like to invite you to share your name, where your feet touch the ground on the word today, and respond to the question. If you have participated in the journey, what is exciting you about the knowledge sharing journey? So if you was with us in this journey, what is exciting you about the journey? But if you are new in this community and you are just joining us now, what are you curious about to hear about the journey? What are you curious? Why you are here, curious about? Please, you can use the chat or the Google Doc. I see many people adding their insights, ideas in the Google Doc, but also in the chat. If you finish, you can take 1-2 minutes to read what the other colleagues have written, why they are here, why they are excited or curious about. They want to hear the experience in the first hand, to reconnect with the other colleagues, to understand the tangible results of this process and of the grantees, learn the success and challenges for other grantees, meeting other colleagues, sharing experience, learning different methodologies or innovations in the area of conservation. We get a sense that we are really global here. We have people from many, many different countries, from Caribbean, from Africa, from Europe. Thank you. 1 minute to complete your contributions. I see people from Brussels, from Bonaire, Zimbabwe, Barbados, Cape Verde, Seychelles, Mauritius, Jamaica, Belize, Kenya, very nice, Haiti, Conakry, Guinea, Madagascar. That's amazing. That's amazing to see all of you here today. So now let's move to the opening remarks. We are going to hear two colleagues who are supporting us in the journey. We will invite first Trevor Sandwich, who is the director for the conservation action for conservation from IUCN. And we are also invited EU representative Chantal from the Directorate from European Commission in Brussels. Let's hear their opening remarks. Trevor, over to you, please.
Hello and good day to everybody. I'm Trevor Sandwith and I'm Director of IUCN's Center for Conservation Action. Just to give you a little flavor of that, we work across our global oceans, forests and grasslands, protected and conserved areas, and also species conservation action. And why I'm mentioning that spread is that across that portfolio, we work with many grant-making programs, trying to ensure that investment is made directly into conservation action on the ground, in the sea, to make a difference and an impact on biodiversity and also people's lives. I won't spend too long because there's more exciting things to follow me, but I just wanted to start off by acknowledging, of course, our donors and the European Commission through the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, but also, as we'll be talking about Panorama later on, also the development partners involved in Panorama, including the German government. One of the things that struck me with this this webinar, the Knowledge Sharing Journey, is that it was represented as a closing event. And I wanted to just stop right there and say, knowledge sharing and knowledge generation is a lifelong process. It's something that we never end in our lifetimes, in our careers. And I'm sure that's the same for all of the organizations and all of you. We might be closing down a particular phase of what we're doing, but what we've done is actually start the journey that takes us through to full effectiveness over time. And knowledge management and learning is so crucial to that process. We often in conservation, we have a very strong problem-oriented approach. We see that there's a problem, something is broken, something is dysfunctional. And of course, that's an important part of conservation, to try and find out what we can do about those situations. But conservation is also about success, your success. When you've done something really well, really understanding what made it work, why it's working, why it's successful, and being able to break down the ingredients of that success, celebrate the success, and communicate the success. Communication that is positive is so infectious, it's inspiring, it's replicable, it's scalable. When someone is doing something so interesting that all of us sit up and take notice, then we're much more likely to internalize that learning and to assimilate it into what we do in the future. So I just want to flag that as well. And the grant making has been doing a very, very specific thing right across the BEST and BIOPAMA portfolio, is actually to invest in, let me put it this way, the smaller organizations. We're not trying to reach major non-governmental organizations, international organizations, or governments. We're trying to get right down to those actors who can make something happen on the ground. And that does two things. The first thing is that you're all doing technical work. You're improving something, you're restoring something, you're learning from something. But the other thing that you're doing is you're learning how to do that, how to actually conceptualize, make up a proposal, develop a budget, manage that program, deliver it effectively, learn from it, measure the impact. So there's two kinds of capacity and knowledge and learning that is going on, both technical and operational. And these programs are doing so much of that. I'd say one of the major legacies of the knowledge management journey is all of you working together. We never had that before, and now we do. And so we can build on that. And just in sort of heading towards closing my remarks, we were so fortunate to see, after so many years, the Global Biodiversity Framework agreed in Canada at the end of last year. And that was only agreed to have ambitious and powerful goals, the 23 goals, because there's also financial resources that go with that, and the long-term strategic framework for capacity development, and the strategy for knowledge management. So everybody in the world understands that we can't achieve conservation outcomes, targets, and goals if we don't accompany that with these cross-cutting resources of knowledge management, learning, and of course, the funding that it takes to actually do that. So we're now moving to a really important stage where the Convention on Biological Diversity is inviting organizations and others to set up regional support centers for this very purpose, for knowledge management, for capacity development. And we hope that you will hear much more about that the regional observatories that were established under BIOPAMA and all of your organizations can be partners in this great global effort to conserve biodiversity and do so in ways that benefit people. So I wanted to just close by thanking all of you for joining the journey and for continuing the journey. And we look forward to hearing so much more about your results, your impacts, your lessons learned, and the directions that you would propose for the future. So good luck for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Trevor. So maybe now we can invite Chantal, who is the head of unit for the DG INPA, the Environment Sustainable Natural Resources from the European Commission. Please, Chantal, over to you.
Thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon to all the people who are participating. It's quite good to see that there are quite a few people already here. And this is an event where I think we're celebrating a long journey that we've all been taking together. So as you've been saying, we're here to discuss the BIOPAMA and the BEST programs that the European Union's been financing over the past couple of years. And they represent a reflection of the EU's commitment to biodiversity. From what myself and my team see, we've made, a huge progress with these programs over the years. But they're also having to deal with a changing context. Trevor was mentioning the global biodiversity framework. At the European level, we've also been adopting strategies on biodiversity, but also a Green Deal framework that will transform the European Union's economy. So in a way, these programs have been really dealing with a changing context in which they're operating. To be able to implement what we're doing at a European level, because we're still a small actor, even if we're a regional actor, we want to work with our partners, and we've been developing flagships in and with partner regions, one of them being the Nature Africa, or also, as mentioned by Trevor and Fernanda, they're the centers of excellence that have been supported by these programs. And we're starting to see how everything is coming together and how it can actually start shaping our future work on biodiversity. So today's event, as you've been seeing, is really a culmination of many knowledge products that have been prepared over the years, and several rounds of consultations over time that have provided a chance for everyone to reflect, share, exchange, and learn from each other, and have been a very good opportunity to look at what has worked and what hasn't worked, and how we can learn from both aspects of the programs. I think that one of the very defining aspects of the BEST and BIOPAMA programs is been the value of a bottom-up approach, where IUCN has facilitated implementation. The guarantees have decided what actions were relevant and were needed, and the EU has provided support for these actions. So we've all been, playing different roles, but that have all equally been important for the success of the implementation of the programs. The idea that to work through grants was really to be able to support actions that amplified, had an amplifying effect at the ground level. And each the programs had its own targets, its specificities, and it was in this regard that I'd like to say a few words about each of them. So BIOPAMA is really the recognition of the EU's commitment to improve long-term conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity and natural resources in protected areas, but also in surrounding communities across the ACP countries. This is the approach that we take in the Directorate General of International Partnerships, where we don't see ecosystems on their own, but we really want to put people at the center of our action, because we think that that's the only way that we can really protect our planet. Over the past 10 years, BIOPAMA has really promoted this holistic approach that has allowed us to work on building a strong information and knowledge management tools while supporting concrete actions on the ground. The regional observatories that it's also been supporting have collected data on protected areas and conservation and biodiversity, and they've really contributed to the monitoring and implementation of the global biodiversity framework, and specifically the Target 3. And this is certainly something that we want to continue to support in the future, because we think it's going to be extremely important to link them up also to other programs on data and monitoring. BIOPAMA has also promoted scientific and information knowledge as key tools for enhancing policy and decision-making capacities amongst regional institutions that are responsible for biodiversity conservation and protected area management. And hence they've played a really pivotal role with the regional observatories. And we see that as being the basis on which we can have a global approach to decision-making and to policy development. And also through the action component, BIOPAMA has provided funding opportunities for specific site-based actions in priority conservation landscapes. And I think it's approved around 160 grants in the 50 ACP countries. So as for the BEST, that's really a reflection for Europe that our biodiversity as the European Union is very often situated in the overseas countries and territories which have the richest resources, but also need the most support to be able to protect them. And that these ecosystems really are providing both local but also global services. So they're going to be playing an instrumental role in our climate and therefore in our future. The EU has a responsibility, but also an opportunity to react to conserve and restore biodiversity and ecosystems of global significance while ensuring the sustainable development of local communities. And the EU biodiversity strategy in relation to the OCTs that are not necessarily governed by EU rules encourages the relevant member states to consider promoting equal and equivalent rules to these territories in the context of nature protection. So EU OCTs are really key to the EU 2030 biodiversity strategy, and are key aspect of our commitments to the Global Biodiversity Framework and Sustainable Development Goals. So I think we all know that BEST has also promoted a funding facility for small-scale activities that have been supported through calls for proposals, and BEST has also served to compile, share, and communicate the insights from peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. So BEST has been an important aspect of the work that we've been doing, and the regional approach of the program has been an asset as far as we're concerned, that's ensured the proximity with territories and also the adaptation to the local context, and making sure that the actions have been country specific and are providing elements to equip us for future efforts. Now, we're really happy with the program, but obviously we can't rest on our laurels, and we really need to see what we can do better. We've got a biodiversity crisis on our hands. We're seeing that it's intertwined with a climate crisis. All of this is accelerating. It's especially visible in small island states and elsewhere as well. And we think that we can and we should do better. So we need to keep a really open mind to learn the lessons. And this knowledge sharing journey is one of the great opportunities for us to learn lessons. Also, the independent evaluations that we've had, which will be disseminated in the next couple of weeks. And this will help us prepare for new phases ahead in the processes to improve our collaboration and the work that we do together to make sure that we really do have an impact and can really contribute to fighting climate change and to protecting the biodiversity around the world. So, I'd just like to say thank you for participating in this journey with us, and we're looking forward to the discussions of today. Thank you. Fernanda, back to you.
Thank you, Chantal. Thank you for your words. So now we are going to invite Marie Fishborn for Panorama Solutions. She's going to explain us a little bit of how this exercise is happening. And after that, we are going to invite you to group discussion where you can hear some of the solutions that the grantees are bringing and sharing with us. Marie, please.
Thank you, Maria Fernanda. So a key objective of the knowledge sharing journey was, of course, to reflect on and understand and document what worked, why, and how in these projects that were funded through the grants. In order to stimulate this reflection and to document successful outcomes and key enabling factors from the projects, we use the Panorama methodology. The Panorama Solutions for a Healthy Planet, for those who don't know it, is a knowledge and learning initiative of IUCN and other partners. It supports uptake of existing solutions or good practices by facilitating knowledge capture and exchange. And it includes the leading global online platform for good practice case studies in nature conservation and broader sustainable development. The Panorama learning and exchange approach is central to this capitalization journey and has been fully integrated into the design of the journey. We use the Panorama case study template to document experiences from the projects. Most importantly, this template breaks a solution down into the key components of success, which can be transferred and taken up by other practitioners in their own respective contexts. We call these key components the building blocks of a solution. So during the knowledge sharing journey, we guided the participants in a step-by-step process to develop the framing of their Panorama solution case study. This is a beautiful visual that was produced by our graphic facilitator at the event in Nairobi, and it illustrates the key elements of the case study format. So starting on the right, we have the impact section, and we really worked closely with the participants for them to make a mental shift from being grantees or project implementers to being solution providers. So moving from the description of a project with all its activities, indicators, objectives, to actually reflecting on solution outcomes or positive impact for people and nature. And then, of course, importantly, to come up with a description of the process. So this is the section here in the center, and most importantly, identifying these building blocks that I just talked about. We use the analogy of a noodle soup. So your building blocks are all the ingredients that are absolutely essential for cooking this dish: the water, the noodles, the vegetables, the salt, and that really cannot be done without, that overall make up the successful outcome. And then finally, participants were asked to describe some key parameters of the underlying context in which the solution evolved, such as the location, ecosystem, or the challenges that were addressed. So especially through the in-person event in Nairobi, we worked very closely with them to co-develop these case studies through a mix of peer advice and discussion and individual drafting work. And by the end of that event, all of the participants had come up with advanced drafts of the case studies, the great majority of which was then later uploaded and published on the Panorama web platform after the event. As a result, we have around 40 solutions published on the platform, mostly from Eastern and Southern Africa, which is not surprising since the majority of the participants were from that region. And these case studies cover a huge range of topics, of course, reflecting the topics of the grants themselves, ranging from enhancing resilience of protected areas in the face of the COVID pandemic, to restoration activities on islands, or the integration of cultural values in the conservation approach for flagship species. These solutions will remain available on the Panorama web platform in perpetuity, and in that way enable access to the experiences and the knowledge behind these projects from a wide range, or by a wide range of users, and allowing access even beyond the lifespan of the BEST and BIOPAMA programs. Some of the solutions have already achieved around 1,000 page views since they were published just a few months ago. And here on the slide, you see some screenshots of what they look like on the web platform. Later, we will share a poster which includes, among other things, all the links to all the case studies from the grants that participated in the journey. So in closing, I would like to say that this was the first time that IUCN deliberately used the Panorama methodology for capitalizing on experiences from our grant-making programs. And it is really something we hope to do more of in the future, and to build on this initial fantastic experience as we increasingly institutionalize Panorama as a knowledge management tool in the whole organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. So now let's hear the solutions, right? We will have a participatory session now, and I will explain first how it works. We are going to create small groups. So in your screen will appear an invitation to join a room. So keep the Zoom open and not any other page, otherwise you lose the invitation, okay? So once the invitation appears, you just accept to join the group, and you will be directly put in a small group. In each group, you have between 1 or 2 grantees who are invited to share their solution. So for all the grantees that are with us in the journey, we hope you are able to now share the impacts, the lessons that you got with the other colleagues who will be in the room. So the groups are mixed. We have 1 or 2 grantees who will share their stories, their solutions. So focus on what matters, focus on the impacts and the enabling factors and the also lessons that you got in the process if you want. And the other colleagues who are either grantees who were not in the journey, or if they are partners from other organizations that are also managing projects, you are invited to do questions or clarifications. And if you have something very similar, you can also share. Okay? So we have also French speakers groups and English speaker group to allow everyone to understand without the support of the translators, since they cannot move in so many rooms. We have 10 different rooms. In each room, you have 5 participants, so you can introduce yourself quickly and then move to hear the solutions. We will have 20 minutes for this exercise. I already know you will feel that's not enough time, but the conversation is ongoing. So we hope to keep doing these gatherings from time to time. I will open the Zoom rooms. You can stay until the end. When it's less than 1 minute, you will have a question. We will broadcast a message for you, and you know that immediately you come back to the main room. If you drop off in the call, you can just log in again, and then we move to another group. Okay? Everyone is clear? So for the grantees, please share your solution. Focus on what matters and focus on sharing the impact, the enabling factors that allow you to reach these results and the lessons learned. And all the others are invited to hear and maybe doing comments or questions. See you in a bit. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the small group discussion. As I mentioned before, this is just to give you a taste. The idea is that the gatherings will continue. This community of practitioners will continue live. So we will have more opportunities to organize events to share the knowledge we gather. It's just to give you a feeling of that and how nice it is to hear the stories and the solutions from other colleagues. So as I mentioned before, we have several knowledge products that we develop. One is the Panorama solution, but we also have photo exhibition, we have podcasts, and all this material will be presented together in a poster. So we are going to share very soon the link with you so you can see all the materials together. You have to download the poster to allow and use all the links we have for the different products, okay? So now I would like to invite Margot to present for us the photo exhibition. Please, Margot, over to you.
Hi, nice to see you all in this virtual room. I'm just gonna switch, there you go, to the original channel, or I can hear the interpretation. I'm gonna now share my screen and show you this virtual exhibition that is basically a recap of local conservation actions from grantees in the field during both BEST 2.0 Plus and BIOPAMA programs. This photo exhibition highlights projects from 7 regions in 31 countries worldwide. Yeah, there are 2 parts to the exhibition. You can access the second part here if you're seeing my screen in the description. The second link and the second part of the exhibition is here below. And I'm now going to show you how to enter the virtual exhibition. And I want to add that it's best to use Google Chrome or Firefox in order to enjoy this, this exhibition. So what you have to do is simply use your mouse here and click on Start Guided Tour like this. And it's going to take you automatically to every picture here. And the virtual exhibition is divided basically by region and by country. So starting from the North Atlantic to the Caribbean, Central Africa, Eastern Africa, Pacific, Southern Africa, and Western Africa. And the other thing that you can do is kind of hover here with your mouse, and you can see if you click or if you just hover, if you click normally or hover, you can see the description of every project with the name, a short description of the project, the copyright, and also the year and the country. And that's it. You can also, I'm going to stop the guided tour. This is the automatic guided tour, but you can also enter the exhibition yourself if you want to do that. That's also a possibility. And the explanation is on the right-hand side of the screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margot. We have lovely pictures from all of you. And then we also want you to share that on social media and invite your family, parents, colleagues, and partners to see it online. As I mentioned, we have all the products together, and I will invite my colleagues to share the link where you can download this poster. So this is a poster that we put together to put all the different knowledge products. So here is a short description of the journey. Then you have the video that we just watched today in the introduction. We have the link for the photo exhibition. So once you click here, you will be redirected to that link. You also have the link for the podcast series. We have all the materials produced for BEST. So since BEST is closing or just closed, you have a glimpse of the program, which is a short 2-minute videos, but we also have a long video of 12 minutes where we can hear the grantees' voices and what they learned through this trajectory. So if you are managing grant in other organizations or IUCN in other programs, you have a lot of lessons from grantee colleagues here in terms of project management and grant mechanisms. And here you have a series of grantee videos. We are going to show one of them today, but you can see the grantees expressing and showing what they are doing in the field to save our planet. And here we have a knowledge brief. Christina is going to share some of the insights of this brief and knowledge and results and lessons we captured through the BEST 2.0 plus implementation. And in BIOPAMA, we also have video voices from the grantees. We have a collection of 44 videos that will be available in YouTube. Some of them are already there. The others will be by the next week, so keep following it. We also have 2 briefs about the Western Central Africa and Eastern Central Africa grants results and lessons that will be available at BIOPAMA website. So you just click here to download them. And after that, we have all the list of the 40 panorama solutions mentioned by Marie today. So once you click on the title, you will be directly sent to the solution in the panorama portal. So we have 40 solutions, just choose the ones you are interested to. That's it. I think the link of the brochure will be shared soon in the Google chat. In the chat of the Zoom. And for now, I will invite Cristina Romero, who is the program coordinator for BEST 2.0, to start her presentation of results, lessons, and recommendations from BEST experience. Please, Cristina, over to you.
Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon, everyone, colleagues. Most of you know me, or I know most of you we've met in person, others not, but I'm equally pleased to be sharing this space with all of you. I will just very quickly give you a very short introduction of BEST, of the program. We are very proud to say the BEST, the initiative was created in 2010, 2011, and it is the first EU funding mechanism fully dedicated to the conservation of local biodiversity and ecosystem services in the EU overseas. We've had several calls for proposals of BEST, but the current or the last call for proposals, the project that is gathering most of you today, those BEST grantees, is a project that started in 2019 and finished actually just a few weeks ago, the 31st of August 2023. The action has financed and financing has been 2 million euros, and the envelope that we have dedicated to the grantees, to the projects, has been about 1,300,000 euros. Yes, the regions that we have targeted are 5: the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean. You can see in the infographic the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean, the Pacific, polar and subpolar, the South Atlantic, Caribbean, Indian Ocean, Pacific, polar and subpolar, and the South Atlantic. And we've had 23 projects funded, 4 in the Caribbean, 1 in Indian Ocean, 14 in the Pacific, 1 in polar and subpolar area, and 3 in the South Atlantic. It is very interesting in this infographic. I will not go into detail, but Maria Fernanda now is going to zoom in on the right-hand side, the number of projects that we have funded, disaggregated by themes and amount invested. You can see the most of the projects, well, nearly half of them have been about ecosystem restoration. 7 projects have been about species conservation. Then we've had other projects dealing with awareness and education, and other projects dealing on sustainable management of natural resources. So yeah, as I said, we will give you access to this infographic later on, so you can deep dive into it yourselves. It is also very interesting to talk about the BEST intervention logic, which is very straightforward. And basically the underlying basis for this action is that we achieve the overall objective, which is to promote the conservation of biodiversity and sustainable use of existing services in these territories. So if the following assumptions, and by that I mean the project output, which is if the local actors are enabled to carry out biodiversity conservation actions, and if the other assumption at the second level, which is the project outcome, if the engagement of the local actors in these actions is improved, then the impact can be achieved. If we go back, please, Maria Fernanda, to the infographic, you can see that this infographic very clearly represents the logical framework. So it is actually designed as following the same flow as the logical framework: impact, outcomes, and outputs. And then per each of the outputs, you can see in the section of outputs all of the indicators that can verify that the outputs of the project have been met, have been achieved. First and foremost, because we have funded all these projects, you can see the selection of the project disaggregated by OCT and by type of beneficiary. I think it was Trevor who mentioned before the importance of funding local and grassroots organizations. Well, effectively, BEST, most of the 23 projects have been NGOs. We've also funded a couple of SMEs and a few also territorial governments. And then if you move a little bit more to the link, you can see other indicators that can verify, that are linked to the outputs of the projects as regards the number of invasive alien species monitored, or the area with new or updated assessments. Now, if we move to the outcomes section, please, Maria Fernanda. you can see the indicators that are relevant to the outcome of the program, and we are talking here about the engagement of the local actors in this action, if it has been improved or not. And here, as Maria Fernanda is with the cursor hovering on it, we can see the number of partnerships that BEST has enabled and has facilitated to foster. We're very proud of that. But we can also talk about the number of, for instance, invasive alien species prevention and control measures that have been introduced. And then again, we're talking about area under improvement, under improved protection and restoration status. And then finally, if we move to the impact section, and the indicators that are relevant to the impact, well, we're also very proud to say that these are the results that we have measured and that we have collated. The way that we have collated, by the way, all these results has been on a two-level, let's say, phase. On the first hand, we've had the grantees working and filling out the logical frameworks with the best indicators and also their own customized indicators, and then all the projects' best indicators have been transferred to the master Excel file, the logical framework of the program, and this is how we have been able to collate and to aggregate all the data. So this is the result, obviously, of the individual work of all the grantees. So this is, yeah, when we talk about the logical framework, and let me just say a few words that other colleagues have already mentioned, but in the case of BEST, I just would like to repeat again, because I think it's very important. This the added value of the BEST program has been, first of all, we have witnessed that it is the local level where the global agenda turns really into tangible actions. We can see, or we have seen, that the funding approach of BEST has demonstrated the granted grassroots organizations require not only funding but also networking opportunities, linking and experience sharing, and BEST has been able to produce and to provide that. BEST has been flexible and adaptive, and has enabled an engaging relationship between the grant managers and the grantees, and as proof of that, I mean, this engagement, the meaningful engagement that we are having right now. And another important point, perhaps, is that BEST approach has strengthened, we really believe, the local space for civil society in these territories, because we see that we have granted same grantees over the time, over the different call for proposals. So we believe this is a way, through the funding and the support that they have received, this is a way of strengthening and empowering the local society space in the territories where BEST operates. So very proud of having worked with BEST, for BEST, and with you, with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. So now we are going to invite Tânia Merceron, who is the program coordinator for BIOPAMA in Western Central Africa, to give us an overview about the BIOPAMA findings. Over to you, Tânia.
Thank you, Maria Fernanda. So I am going to, my name is Tânia Merceron, and I am the BIOPAMA Regional Coordinator for West and Central Africa, and I'm going to provide this overview that Maria talked about of what we did in the grants. So first of all, we had an overall budget of 21 million euros that was spread across the 4 regions of BIOPAMA that you can see here in the map, which are the ACP countries, so Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific. And currently, after 5 calls for proposals, we already have awarded 13.5 million euros across the board. So this has happened through 4 types of grants. We have medium grants, small technical grants for assessment, and rapid response grant that was not initially foreseen in the program, but this is something that came up after COVID so that we could answer urgent needs of our partners on the ground. So we have awarded already over 160 grants to date, and that covers over 400 protected and conserved areas in 50 beneficiary countries directly. And this is really important because we really try to reach out to as many countries as possible, but also to target the actual needs from these countries. And now I'm gonna talk a bit about the content of these grants, what we tackled and our objectives while implementing these grants. Next slide, please, Maria. So first of all, we had many grants that talked about capacity building. And capacity building is something that came up very strongly at national and local level, and we heard it just now in the small group discussions that capacity building had two levels. The first one was towards the over 300 protected area practitioners that were trained per region on various conservation topics, but also all the grantees receive financial and technical training on grant mechanism and grant management, which was very important. And that also reaches another point that was talked about, especially by Trevor and Chantal earlier, that BIOPAMA is a bottom-up approach. So the approach we used is that we went to we contacted the national stakeholders and the local communities. We assessed some protected areas, or we counted on previous assessment to know what are the priorities in this country or in these protected areas, and do all the stakeholders agree with these recommendations. And these recommendations are what are turned into projects that would be funded and supported. So we really ensure that there is that bottom-up approach that will support innovative partnership approaches with several type of organizations. We have national stakeholders, we have community stakeholders, we have NGOs, and we also have a few big international NGOs. And one thing that is very key is that human rights is at the heart of what we're doing. It's really important that to mention that we conducted environmental and social safeguards in every grant that we have conducted, so that we ensure that conservation measures go hand in hand with governance and human rights. And finally, we did cover a large spectrum of grants. We had a protected area management and governance, we had livelihood, we had threatened species, we had COVID-19 responses, especially that during that period, the fund for protected areas and environment generally were severely reduced to cover other urgent needs. So this was really a relief for many of our partners on the ground at the local level and sometimes national level to tackle and continue working towards reaching conservation goals. So these are broadly the activities that we covered. And now I'm passing over to you, Maria, for the next steps. Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya, very much. Now we would like to hear what are the takeaways, for example, for the projects, for the organizations, for IUCN, what are the key recommendations, lessons that we got from this capitalization at grant and project level? Christina, can you share with us some insights, and then Tanya will continue?
Yes, sure.
Go ahead.
Will you share the slide? Yes, this one. Thank you. Yes, you can see many takeaways here, many recommendations. I will just make a summary of this first slide. Also very important to note that these takeaways are the result of extensive discussions and consultations, not just between us, the IUCN grant managers, but also with the with you, with the grantees, through monitoring, through missions, through exit interviews, and obviously through this journey, this process. From everything that you see here, I am going to highlight just a few points, because you will have access to this document and you can read it in full. First of all, one of the key takeaways is the importance of, when it comes to contract and administration, is the importance of negotiating less stringent admin and reporting conditions with the donor, because that's going to have a positive trickle-down effect and for us, for IUCN, but ultimately, and even more importantly, for you, for the grantees. This would be one of the main takeaways. As regards the program design, well, this point refers to several elements. The first of all is that the program design needs to factor in very evidently the regional context. So the calls for proposals need to be, I think I've mentioned this before, as adaptive and responsive and effective as possible. So we cannot lose the focus on the fact that we are effectively shifting here the decision making to the grantees, and therefore we are responding to the local realities. But they are the ones who know, and they are the ones who are in a better position to know what the big problems are, the priorities are, and what are the solutions to put in place. On a more practical level, it's also very important to put in place solid guiding tools in order to submit the proposals. And obviously, it is also the networking opportunities. This is the third point that I would mention: networking opportunities that we give to the applicants and to the grantees for cross-project collaboration. But I'm talking about networking opportunities not just when the projects start to be implemented, but much further before. So from the beginning, upon devising the project proposals, let's give them the opportunity to meet one another, to see who's doing what, and perhaps to foster some connections before they submit their proposals. Another important takeaway is stakeholder engagement. It's been talked about in this meeting several times. It is very important, again, to involve the wider spectrum of stakeholders all the way through, right at the beginning, from the definition of the priorities of the call for proposals to the project's promotion, all the way through. And here we're talking about the territorial governments, other peers that are working in similar projects in other fields, the multi-stakeholder spectrum. And last but not least, capacity development is one of the fundamental pillars upon which all these grant mechanisms are based on. We need to create a solid capacity building strategy that covers cross-cutting topics like monitoring, evaluation, communication, the building up of solid logical frameworks. That is another important takeaway that we must take through to the next best. And now I give the floor to my colleague Tanya. She can continue.
Sorry. Hi. Thanks, Christina. So I'm going to pass on to some other key takeaways. And the first one is monitoring and evaluation. So it is really key what we found out, that we have a clear logical framework with clear indicators that grantees will be able to follow, and that will globally feed into a broader vision or broader program like we have in BIOPAMA program. And it can even go up to the global scale, because what we find could be extremely interesting is to identify how the different grants from BEST and BIOPAMA and other IUCN granting mechanism can contribute to reaching the global biodiversity objectives. So it's really important to frame all of these initiatives within the monitoring framework at the regional and global level to ensure that there is a continuity in the actions that we are doing and that they will easily be picked up by broader and longer scales initiatives. Another point is knowledge management, and this is exactly what we're doing now. And it's extremely important because it is key to establish a network between the different grantees so that they can learn from one another, but also the managers of the grant can learn what worked, what didn't work, and also improve in any next initiative. So, and it's also good for one grantee and the other to share tips on implementations that will make the process easier for both grantees and program managers. And we also mentioned the Panorama solution, which is a great platform to do that. And we really want to have IUCN do that further with the other grants. And we do encourage any other organization to use that platform because like Marie presented earlier, it is really open and it creates that community of practice and platform for exchanges that can be beneficial for all of us. Another point is communication and visibility. So this one is key because the visibility of the program will ensure that the results that we've reached will be shared with a broader community of people that can not only know from it, learn from it, but also picked up by other partners, other donors, so that it can be carried on a further level. So we found that it was very useful to include that aspect within the contracts that we'll be having with the grantees so that it is actually mandatory to conduct some visibility activities and to generate some documents and materials. For example, Panorama solution was one key deliverable for our medium grant because of the size of the grants and what it implies in terms of impact. So it is interesting to see how we progress through time and how the different communications that we have within the BIOPAMA program itself, but also from the grantees can be coordinated in a way that we share that external image of the program and the grants with a broader community. And last but not least, is the project sustainability. One of the things that we find and is that sometimes, often actually, the actions that were initiated in the frame of a project finish when the funds and the project close. While what we aim for is for long-term commitment. So first of all is to try and see to which extent it is possible to have long-term projects so that we can have longer-term vision and impact on the ground, but also see how we can mobilize further partners to carry on with activities and initiatives that we started so that the results can be picked up and carried on further. And one other point regarding to that is to enable the conditions for grantees to apply for recurrent funding to further advance the conservation actions deployed. And again, the Panorama solution really offers a great platform because it does keep a memory of what has been done and the key components to make things happen and to ensure that things are really captured in a way that other people, other stakeholders can learn from and take further. So thank you very much. Maria Fernanda, over to you.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you very much. As they said, these findings are in the materials we share with you in the poster. So the poster links are in the chat. You can just link and save it. But in any case, we are also going to share with you after the event. So for now, let's hear some voices. First, I will invite Charlie to share with you a best video. Then we will have Yasin sharing a bit of the podcast trailer, and then we have a video from BIOPAMA. Let's go for it.
IUCN Bonaire has been working for over 10 years on assisting the natural recovery of degraded coral populations in Bonaire using active coral restoration. But thanks to the BEST 2.0 Plus program, we were able to implement and scale up a particular technique that is called larval propagation, a technique that allows us to propagate millions of genetically unique coral larvae and plant them back to the reef, increasing the genetic diversity of coral reefs, adding new strain to the coral population. And we know how important it is nowadays to work on the genetic diversity and the biodiversity of coral reef ecosystem, which now face difficult environmental condition and even harsher probably in the near future. So we did it with the help of the community and many volunteers that helped us throughout the entire journey and had the opportunity to experience firsthand the wonder of coral spawning and how much hard work there is behind a coral restoration project.
We are lucky to have Francesca with us, so if you want, you can also reach her through the chat and get contact with this story. Let's invite Jacinthe. Jacinthe, can you tell us a bit of the podcast?
Sure, thanks, Maria Fernanda. So, as you have seen, we have a suite of products here to promote what we've been doing, and one of them that I think is really exciting is the podcast Beyond Borders, Exploring Global Conservation and Restoration. So we've taken the opportunity to, again, hear from our grantees, their experiences on 3 thematic areas: protected area management and governance, ecosystem restoration, and biodiversity monitoring and species conservation. So conversation on those 3 topics with our grantees, a few of our grantees from across the globe. It's an exciting feature that I think you would all enjoy. So I'm not going to say any more about it. I'm going to invite you to listen in, but please listen to this little trailer that would hopefully pique your interest. So over to you, Fernanda.
Welcome to Beyond Borders, Exploring Global Conservation and Restoration, a podcast series that gathers captivating stories and valuable insights from projects supported by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. From February to May 2023, the EU financed the initiatives of BEST 2 and BIOPAMA, brought together over 55 grantees from Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific regions to participate in a knowledge sharing journey. As one of the results of this enriching exchange, we are thrilled to present 3 podcasts that explore the realms of protected area management and governance, ecosystem restoration, and biodiversity monitoring and species conservation. Join us as we discuss these critical topics and learn from the experiences of dedicated and passionate conservationists who are making a real difference in conservation action. Let's dive in.
Thank you. So now we can watch one video from BIOPAMA.
The most significant impact that I have seen while implementing our project, that is Zuguto Community Wetland Restoration in Rubirizi district in Uganda, is the change of attitude of people towards the conservation of natural resources. We've also been able to actually provide alternatives, income generating alternatives for our communities, especially through aquaculture programs. We've also actually helped the fishermen along one of the nearby craters to that wetland, and we've provided them with fish cages, stocked the fish cages, and actually given them the feeds to be able to look after their fish in order to reduce the pressure on the natural resources. One thing that I would want to pass to the other parts that have not been worked on, what we've done can be like a living example and maybe call upon all the stakeholders in their capacity to make sure that we can do a replica to all the other natural resources that are actually under pressure. My experience in this grant knowledge sharing journey is that there is a lot more that we can do to improve on what we've already done. What I can take home is that I would want to do a self-assessment. I want to actually take it upon me as the lead, as the person who has been the leader of this project, to go out there and ask the beneficiaries of that project, people who have benefited, the households, individuals or groups, and they share with me their experience, what impact they have felt, and what they think can be done better. Our focus is to manage people. Conservation is all about the people. My BIOPAMA grant makes a change.
Thank you. We have a lot of more videos for you to watch and to also share with your colleagues. I hope you get excited. I get quite emotional to hear and watch everyone again. Now, let's move to a moment that Roxana will share some ideas and information about upcoming grants, mechanisms at IUCN, and how we are moving forward.
Thank you, Fernanda. It's true, a lot of emotion, at least for me. I feel humbled by the opportunity to meet all of you and hear the stories. The journey, the knowledge sharing journey will continue. We started this in February. We had online sessions. We met in Nairobi, some of us. And this is just BIOPAMA and BEST. As other colleagues said, there are many other grant-making facilities in nature conservation, some of them, many of them managed by IUCN. So my message is, let's continue the journey. Let's grow this community of practice. We can all keep learning about what works in conservation, about how to do grant making better, how to improve it, how to make it more accessible, how we can help you as grant managers. With BIOPAMA, we are not at the end of the journey with the action component, the grant making facility. Many of your projects are still ongoing. BEST 2.0 plus closed. However, the BEST journey is not over. As some of you may know, there's a new program called Best Life 2030. It's a new partnership between IUCN, colleagues in this call, Martin from Nordeco, OFB, IUCN Netherlands, IUCN French Committee, Consulta Europa, and other partners. It's a 8-year initiative that will provide grants for small actions in EU outermost regions and EU overseas countries and territories. And all these lessons learned from BIOPAMA and BEST will be extremely beneficial for us to implement this Best Life 2030. And it's not just Best Life 2030, there are many other grant-making facilities managed by IUCN like Kiwa, SOS, Tiger, the TFCA in SADC. Please have a look at it, get in touch with us. We want to know your thoughts, what happens when your project ends, and what happens next, what will be your next endeavor, how we can further work together. And please stay part of the community. Please engage with the regional centers that will be mandated by the CBD Secretariat for the technical and scientific cooperation for monitoring the global biodiversity framework. Welcome to the journey for those of you who are joining us now. Make sure you use the opportunity of the Panorama Solutions platform to share your story with the world, and please stay in touch with us. And we look forward to continuing this journey together. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxana. So we have two final moments to close our session. One is that we invited Monsieur Stéphane Bijou, who is parliamentary from the European Union, to send us a message. So he recorded a video for us. And after that, I will invite all of you to share some insights in the end of the session. So stay with us. Let's watch the video.
Mesdames, Messieurs, chers amis, nous sommes ici au Parlement européen, mais dans toute l'Europe, en pleine semaine européenne du développement durable et, comme chacun le sait, dans notre mobilisation collective pour atteindre nos objectifs de développement durable, la préservation de la biodiversité mondiale est fondamentale. Alors, au moment de conclure nos échanges, je veux d'abord vous redire bravo et merci. Bravo et merci à tous les porteurs de projets pour les succès collectifs obtenus avec le programme BEST pour les Outre-mer européens, avec le projet BIOPAMA pour les pays d'Afrique, des Caraïbes et du Pacifique, toujours en bonne intelligence avec l'IUCN, formidable, et l'Europe toujours présente. Vous avez montré que même avec des petits financements, eh bien, on peut réussir de grandes choses. Vous avez surtout fait la démonstration que quand on cherche à préserver notre bien collectif le plus précieux, notre patrimoine naturel, eh bien, la réussite implique nécessairement de jouer la carte de l'intelligence collective. Nous l'avons vu, BEST et BIOPAMA partagent le même ADN, partager les savoirs, échanger les bonnes pratiques et surtout co-construire au plus près du terrain des solutions locales qui peuvent vraiment changer la donne pour la biodiversité. Et finalement, ce parcours que vous avez entrepris, que vous avez réussi, il a fait voyager beaucoup de solutions dans tous les territoires d'outre-mer, comme sur mon île de la Réunion, dans l'océan Indien, en Afrique, dans les Caraïbes et jusqu'au Pacifique. Alors au moment où tous les indicateurs de la biodiversité mondiale sont au rouge, nous avons bien conscience que sauver la biodiversité n'est plus seulement une question de protéger la faune et la flore. C'est un combat fondamental pour notre planète et ce combat engage notre survie et notre avenir commun. Alors pour gagner ce combat collectif, nous savons que nous devons continuer à travailler ensemble et à mettre en commun ce que nous avons de meilleur. Je vais vous dire, ce parcours pour la survie de notre biodiversité, il est loin d'être terminé. Au contraire, il vient seulement de commencer et je vais vous dire, il peut nous amener loin et nous faire réussir ensemble de grandes choses. Alors encore une fois, bravo, merci et à bientôt.
Merci, Monsieur Stéphane. Thank you, everyone. So now let's, like we did a check-in, I would like to do a checkout question. Again, please feel free to write your final message on the chat or directly in the Google Doc, which is our harvest document. And together with all the materials and the recording of this session, we are going to share with everyone who registered in the event, as well every single BIOPAMA grant and BEST grants. So to do the checkout, we are curious to hear from you how you're leaving our gathering today. So you can post your answer on the chat or in the Google Doc. The question is, share your name and respond to the question. What's the thing that caught your attention the most in today's meeting and that you would like to share elsewhere? The question is also in the chat. What's the thing that caught your attention the most in today's meeting and that you would like to share elsewhere? Okay. So people like it to share their solutions, like it to hear the solutions. They got impressed to the outcomes we reach all together, but we are more impressed about the results you all got from the field. It's that you are always so involved in so many tasks and activities, and generally we do not take enough time to recognize the results and share it. So that's the opportunity. I want to see all of you sharing on LinkedIn and your social medias, all the materials you produce it, and also in your institutions, if you want to give some feedback from your colleagues who were not able to join, like your financial officers, your monitoring colleagues, your technical expertise team working parallel activities. Invite all of them to navigate all the products, visit the exposition, hear the podcast, watch your videos, and so on. So 1 minute to close. Maybe we can all open your mics now, and we can say, instead of goodbye, maybe see you soon in your own language. Please open your mics.
Obrigado, até breve.
Obrigada. Até logo.
Ciao.
A bientôt.
Ci vediamo.
Bye.
Ciao ciao.
Ciao.
Buonanotte.
Bye.
Hasta luego.
Nana.
So I just
Até breve, pessoal. See you soon. A bientôt.